have gone to file a memo as Speaker Secretariat seeking to recall Parliament. So they've done that already. They are not now gathering the signatures. They've already gathered at least 15% of members of Parliament and attached the memo to it and sent to Speaker.
You said they originally denied that?
Yes, on Joy. You can contact Joy when we're interviewed. And I said that I have intelligence that they were gathering signatures to recall Parliament. Habib denied. He denied vehemently that anything like that was happening, and that they were giving the Speaker, as Speaker informed them, they were giving him the opportunity to hold wild consultations. And yet, less than 24 hours, they are going to file. These people are not credible one at all. Very dishonest people. Anyway, let's move into the meat of the issues.
You seem but first, you seem surprised at that kind of conduct, that they deny something the next moment they are admitting to doing it.
People who go to court and say that court should reverse the NDC from NDC had become majority in Parliament, and so they were praying with the court to reverse that. Otherwise, as a government, they will become unpopular in an election year. Then, as soon as they leave court, they say they are talking about national interest. Have you trust such a people? And I'll point to you exactly what they went to say in court. Whether they went to court thinking of a national interest other than the NPP's interest.
But first, some form of education. In fact, the last time we saw this being done, where Parliament was recalled because of this same move. So I guess the Speaker has no other choice.
It is the reason why I think that they are abusing this parliamentary process. What they are doing is an abuse of parliamentary process. And so I intend to go to court today. In fact, as we speak, we are going through the processes to file my writ in court. That's one. Two, you recall that when, due to their indolence and inaction and non-activity, the life of the second meeting of this parliament this year came to an end. So Speaker adjourned the House CNDA on 30th of July. The next day, the very next day, 31st of July, they wrote a scathing letter directed at Speaker, practically insulting Speaker. The words they used in that letter, I cannot repeat them here. But I pray that we can look for that letter and see the kind of language Afenyo deployed against Speaker.
The letter was written to the Speaker?
Yes. They said this recall letter, they recall Parliament on 31st. Have you forgotten?
Yes, I recall.
Good. So I'm speaking to that one. About the matters they cited as being of grave national importance and therefore Parliament should be recalled, the less than 24 hours it had been adjourned immediately for us to go on our long recess and deal with our campaign matters. They said that they had a loan to grant, they had some bills to be passed, all manner of things. Go and check whether the items that they listed as constituting important national matters are not the same items that they have listed in yesterday's recall motion. Check. The same thing. Invariably, the same number of items or business. Now, these guys, when the Speaker gave them the opportunity to recall the House, for 2 days, they didn't pursue this business that they called, where they told the nation that they were of urgent national importance. They came to dance around and delete. So after 2 days, Speaker had to adjourn the House so that we could go back to our constituencies and work. It's the same items or businesses that they list. How is a tax waiver of national importance to anybody. A tax waiver. How is a bill, a 2022 bill, suddenly of national importance? A 2023 bill, your own bill that you couldn't pursue, you were not serious. Anytime bills come to the floor, it's some of us from the NDC caucus. We stand on our feet and go through the consideration and make sure the bills are passed into legislation. You won't find the NPP people. But to hoodwink and bamboozle everybody, suddenly they are calling them their items of grave national importance. And so we should be recalled less than 24 hours after they decide they consult speaker to adjourn the house in that. You know they did that. They decided to walk out. So even though we had a commencement quorum pursuant to Article 102 of the Constitution, pursuant to Article 104, we didn't have a quorum to make decisions. So Speaker was compelled that certain decisions that the House needed to make could not be taken by absence of quorum, decisional quorum. So she was compelled to adjourn the House in that.
And I'm coming back to what you've indicated to us. They are planning to file a writ in court today.
Yes.
To challenge the recall.
Yes, because it's an abuse of parliamentary process. It means that any time, if we allow these people this way, any time Parliament attends, they'll just get about 45 members of Parliament and then file for a recall. Then when Parliament is eventually recalled, they won't come and do anything because they are in charge of government business. Then Parliament will adjourn again. Then the next day, they will recall Parliament. That is an abuse that the Constitution didn't contemplate at all. So it must not be countenanced.
So that's the grounds for a challenge.
That is the ground for the challenge. It's an abuse. They are abusing this provision. And in any case, they told the whole country that Speaker relied on Article 97(1) G and H to make a certain declaration in Parliament, isn't it?
Yes.
And by doing so, he engaged in interconstitutional interpretation, which was not in his province to do as Speaker, isn't it?
Yes.
So the NPP caucus in Parliament also rely on Article 1123 to file for this recall. They have also engaged in constitutional interpretation because, for me, on a true and proper interpretation of that provision, there is no emergency situation in this country which should warrant a recall of Parliament. So, on that basis, I am also going to the Supreme Court to seek interpretation, whether or not Parliament can be recalled at any time on a certain supposed ground of emergency when there is no such national emergency.
You're saying that
there cannot be a whimsical application of that provision. That provision cannot be invoked whimsically.
You're saying that kind of recall can only be done because there's an emergency.
When you have extreme national emergency, yes.
But I'm looking at the provision, and it says, notwithstanding any other provision of this article, 15% of members of Parliament may request a meeting of Parliament, and the Speaker shall, within 7 days after the receipt of the request, summon Parliament. It seems they don't need any reason to do any emergency to do that.
They have given a reason under our standing orders. They relied on standing orders in addition.
Okay.
And they are calling it emergency recall, not a regular recall.
And you think that none of the business that they've listed amount to an emergency?
How does a tax waiver amount to an emergency? Tax waiver that's been pending before Parliament for the past 2 years. A bill that they brought in 2022. How does that become an emergency in October 2024? How does a bill submitted in 2023 assumes emergency status in October 2024? Those are the matters I speak of.
But can they simply not say that the last time Parliament came, no business, they were not, you were not able to do any business. The business that you were in to do was not done.
But if you walk out, who should do your business for you when you walk out and render Parliament dysfunctional? Should Parliament sit and wait for you? I think it is time we ask the hard questions and direct them at the NDC, the NPP caucus in Parliament. They've resorted to whimsical governance of this country. They are governing this country like it's a sole proprietorship, that they can do whatever they like with this nation and nobody can say anything. It should be calling them to order. That when they are given the executive powers of state to exercise and govern this country, they ought to be serious with their governance. They become like school children. For instance, I'm supposed to sit at the right because I didn't get opportunity to sit at the right. So come to the floor and make your point. And people should stop saying that Parliament has become very partisan, because under the Constitution, it is only Parliament that political parties that are established on very partisan lines are enjoined under law to sponsor candidates to go and do politics. It is only Parliament that will do politics, partisan politics. So whatever happens in Parliament happens on partisan lines. That is why Parliament is divided on partisan lines. Parliament is not a church. People should begin to accept this thing.
I see. If you recalled, would you go and sit on the right again?
I served a notice yesterday that let the NPP be informed, and notice is hereby served, that the NDC will continue to sit at the right side of the speaker until the end of the Parliament. That one is not negotiable.
It's also who call what you engage in a power grab.
Are we not what?
That you engage in a power grab.
Were you in this country when this Parliament was split into two, 137? You were in this country?
Yes.
On January 7th, 2021, you were in this country?
Yeah.
You were in this country?
Yes, I was.
Okay. When everything was evenly balanced in Parliament, when nobody could tell who was a minority or who was a majority, you were in this country?
Yes.
You were in this country when a certain member of Parliament who was elected to Parliament as an independent member of Parliament from Fomena, then out of the blue decided to write a letter to Speaker to tell him that he would do business with the NPP caucus in Parliament. And based on that letter, Speaker made some declarations. You were in this country?
Yes.
You were in this country that as soon as Speaker made that declaration, the NPP then became the majority in Parliament. You were in this country? You were in this country?
Yes.
That it took a mere declaration of association with the NPP for them to become a majority in Parliament.
Well, we've lost Honorable ROCKSON ETSE DAFEAMEKPOR on the line, Member of Parliament for South 9. We'll get him back because he said he had some. He said there were arguments that were made in court that I wanted to bring his attention to, that he was going to share with us. Exactly what the NPP argued on their feet when they were in court. That had nothing to do with this country, but their own personal ambitions or what they want. So we'll speak to him. We'll get him back on the line and speak to him. But he's already indicated to us that he is in the process of heading to court. In fact, they are almost in court. He's challenging the move by the NPP MPs to recall Parliament.
Rendered them a majority. They therefore went ahead to elect a majority leader for the House, a majority chief whip for the House, and all their leadership described them as majority. They went ahead to lead a lot of committees that were to be chaired by a majority group in parliament. These were the benefits they got from that declaration by Speaker. By that declaration of Speaker. So there are benefits attendant to Speaker's declaration on last Thursday. When Speaker made that declaration on last Thursday, there were to be benefits for the NDC caucus. So we are not engaged in power struggle. It is by operation of law.
In the meantime, you said you were going to share with us the arguments that were made by the NPP in court.
Yes.
Which showed that they were not pursuing any other interest but their own parochial political interest. What did they say to the court?
Can you give me a second? Let me pull the affidavit in support of the application.
Okay, so we were speaking to Honorable ROCKSON Nelson ETSE DAFEAMEKPOR, who will share with us, because already we have that judgment and people have been looking at the reasons assigned by the Supreme Court and raising questions of that ruling, because people felt those were not the main reasons why the Supreme Court should attempt to do something they should not have done in the first place, to stay the proceedings of Parliament. He says he wants to share with us further what the NPP even argued on his feet.
Now, do you have a copy? You have a copy of the application they took to court?
No, I don't. What I have is the ruling.
I wish. Okay. Let me refer to paragraph 8, not paragraph 4 of the affidavit in support of the application of Afenumaki to court. And in that paragraph, it reference the fact that the NDC minority in parliament has become a majority upon the ruling of the Speaker. And therefore, if the Supreme Court does not reverse that, then the NPP government will become very unpopular. They will not be able to govern the country. And in an election year, they practically will lose favor and power. This was the affidavit sworn to by the Honorable Afenumaki before the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court practically sought to agree with them. So the Supreme Court has tilted the balance of power as it went back to the NPP by that pronouncement.
That they were going to lose favor.
Yes.
And power.
Yes. I'm trying to print the affidavit for you. Now read it into two.
And I'm hoping that you can get that thing, read it to us. Because you're saying that an argument was made in court that...
Yes. You see, he went to court with an affidavit in support of the ex parte application. And in that affidavit, he said certain things. And the things that he said is what I'm putting out to you. That when they claim that they went to court because of the national interest, that's a big lie. It's a big fat lie. Okay. So this is the paragraph. Paragraph 8, subparagraph 4 of the affidavit in support. It reads that the balance of convenience will tilt against the plaintiff applicants and the new patriotic party, the party in government, as the minority party takes over as majority party in parliament. This will thwart government business and by so doing make the country economically difficult in order to make the government of the day unpopular in an election year to score political points. Attached here too and marked as Exhibit C is the weekly business agenda of Parliament for the week ending 18th October 2024. And because of this ruling of the Speaker, the remaining business of Thursday, the 17th of October 2024, was held in abeyance, and all other business of government in Parliament is held on hold. Also attached here to and marked as Exhibit D is the order paper of Parliament showing scheduled business of Parliament, which have been halted as a result of his ruling by the Speaker of Parliament. This is the affidavit that Afenyomakin swore to support his ex-party application, which got the court to give the direction which they have given. If this is not an application to a court of law to tilt the balance of power in Parliament, I don't know what else it is. There's no mention of national interest here. It's all about NPP losing power in Parliament, and that having been done, they will become unpopular because they will not be able, they will have difficulty running the country, and their morbid fear also is that we are in an election year, so they will lose political power. Let me add paragraph 5 and paragraph 8 for you to appreciate the things properly. Paragraph 5 of 8 says that the ruling of the Speaker of Parliament, if made to stand, could plunge the country into mayhem and chaos as unnecessary parliamentary inquiry likely to be raised by the new majority party. Listen, this is Afenyomakin speaking.
Well, perhaps I think what we have to do is get to that what was filed in court, so that we can go through, because it seems, and I guess he's also doing other jobs in addition. I can see. I can see he's playing there. Yes. So he's trying to do two things at the same time. But he's giving us an indication of what was. And if you go through the Supreme Court judgment, one of the things they gave was that there was a possibility of government business being thwarted. So essentially, the Supreme Court agrees with the NPP. And the Supreme Court is essentially saying this decision of ours is sort of to preserve the interest of the New Patriotic Party. That we feel that the New Patriotic Party is likely to suffer more than the NDC. You see that? I think that's I think that is the stance that they've taken, that the New Patriotic Party is likely to suffer more. They are in government. So if we don't grant them this decision, they will suffer. And we are not getting an understanding of some of the things that were said to the courts, the things that were felt. And I would really like to see more of this, so that we can go through some and read some more by what was filed in court that convinced the Supreme Court to grant that application. Bravo.
Yes.
You were reading to us further some of the other pleadings that were made in court.
Yes, so paragraph 5 of paragraph 8, Afenyomakin's sworn affidavit, it continues this way, that the ruling of the Speaker of Parliament, if made to stand, could plunge the country into mayhem and chaos as unnecessary, as unnecessary parliamentary inquiries likely to be raised by the new majority party, and that's NDC, in Parliament, could bring government business were hot and lead the country into civil disobedience, public demonstrations aimed at making the country ungovernable. These are the things he swore to and placed before the Supreme Court. So is it not tragic that a Supreme Court faced with things like this wouldn't give a speaker the opportunity to be heard? They went to court and said that the new majority in Parliament, that's the NDC.
That you had plans to institute unnecessary parliamentary inquiry.
Thank you. So they know it is coming. They know we shall look into things. Even before elections are held, we will look into things. If we maintain this majority for 2 months, for the next 2 months, we will look into things that they have covered up. That is their morbid fear. In all this.
So essentially, then they are right, are they not?
How are they right?
They are right to be afraid.
But you have to be afraid when we have been this corrupt, when we have been this deficient, this corrupt, this inept at governing a nation. You have to be afraid. When you have been this careless about taking public space, money from the space, and not seeking to account for it, you have to be afraid.
But I recall vividly, and I think I'll conclude on this note because I realize I have to let you go. That one of the things that you have to plead in order to get either a stay of execution, an injunction, something like that, was that on the balance of it, you will suffer the more. I'm correct, right?
Absolutely. Nothing like that was placed before the court. He just went to ask the court to reverse the balance of power in Parliament, and the court granted it for them. So it is the Supreme Court that have decided to be politically partisan in this matter. I have said it that the Supreme Court, as a judicial organ of state, is a political institution in any country. And as much as it is set up as a judicial institution, it is also political, because the Supreme Court can actually interfere in the political matters and show the political balance of power. And we have seen it in this country on many, many occasions.
I see. Honorable, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning.
It's my pleasure.